to talk about a quick introduction to the Azure AI services, Azure AI Studio, and working with Azure AI service models. We are going to start with module 1, which is Azure AI services, Azure AI Studio, and Azure Open AI service models. We'll start with the basics or the fundamentals of the Azure AI services and the Azure Open AI service and Azure AI Studio. So if you are new to the Azure Open AI or generative AI, probably this is a good place for you to start, and where we will be introducing you with around the different Azure AI services that are available. What are the large language models, or what we call it as LLMs, that people talk about? We will showcase to you like what Azure Open AI service is and how it differs from the Open AI service itself. So we all know about the Chat GPT, which is actually created by Open AI. So how does it differentiate with Azure Open AI service? So every topic, especially when I talk about Azure Open AI, I always touch upon responsible AI principles. So I'm going to do a quick introduction to what responsible AI is all about. And of course, we will do a bit more detailed version of that, which is under module 4. So following that, we are going to look at some of the key components and concepts of Azure Open AI. Then we will be deep diving into the different type of models that are available in Azure Open AI, which you can actually deploy and also understand the key capabilities of those models. I'm going to also showcase to you about Azure AI Studio, a new studio which is currently in preview that Microsoft is going to be introducing to us sooner than later as GA, what it can offer for you, and why we really needed separate studio given we already have a lot of studios like the Azure Open AI Studio. Then for each of the different Azure AI services, we have a different portal to actually use them. So that is an important concept. So whenever we talk about Azure Open AI, what everything goes on everyone's mind is all about the pricing. So how this Azure Open AI service is being priced. So we are going to look at the two types of models, the pricing models. The first one is the pay as you go model, and the second one is around provisioned throughput units. So I'm going to explain to you what is the difference between them. When do you go for your pay as you go versus when do you go for your PTUs or provisioned throughput units? So there are two key capabilities of Azure Open AI, which we will be looking at towards the end of session, which is around function calling and assistance API. So when we move towards that section, I will really explain you what they are all about. They both are currently in preview mode, but it is a really important set of features that you need to know about when you are planning to use Azure Open AI service. Last but not the least, we'll wrap up session by explaining you to about the availability of Azure Open AI. Azure Open AI currently is not available in all the regions. So there are almost 60 plus regions that are available with Azure services. But when we talk about Azure Open AI, they are available only in a subset of regions. So we are going to look at what are those regions and how do you make the decision around in which region if you have to provision Azure Open AI, just in case if it is not available in the region where you are living in currently or working. So that's pretty much what we'll be covering as part of module 1. We can jump into a quick introduction to the Azure AI services and large language models. So a lot of people think like AI has been a buzzword only in the last few years, maybe 5 years or so. That's what people think about. But that is not the case. Artificial intelligence has been there since 1950s. So if you look at the way how people wanted to create intelligent machines that can replicate human intelligence, that's been in the experimental phase since 1950s. But around 1997, that's when people started to explore around machine learning, which is basically a subset of AI, and that is used to where machines started to learn about information from existing data sets and how it can use the existing data sets in order to make predictions for the future. So that is pretty much starting to come in the late 90s. And I have 20 plus years of experience working in the IT industry. So if I rewind back my career a bit, like maybe in the early 2000s, And I've been working for a utilities company, and I have literally seen them using machine learning models in order to make predictions. So I was working for power sector company, and this particular company had a data scientist who pretty much work on creating predictive models in order to forecast the power pricing, because they basically have got online trading where they used to sell power as well as buy power, and they have been making the predictive models to predict how the prices will fluctuate for the next 7 days based on various factors. You may be surprised like how they did machine learning in those days, and especially like they were using excel vba code to create the machine learning model. And this particular model was really important, so even though it gives them some idea around how the power pricing can fluctuate in the next 7 days, so that they can make some informed decisions based on that model. But unfortunately, even though since 1997 machine learning has been in practice, not a lot of organizations have been embracing that. So they have been using it from the point of to get some yearly predictions, but the confidence level of the organizations using those models was low. The reason for that is there is a various set of factors. One is storage was expensive. So they can't actually take a version of every single point of the data that is used to generate the model as well as to make some informed decisions. The second thing is the infrastructure was also equally expensive. So it was really hard for them to get really grunty machines in order to train these models with large volumes of data. And of course, managing the code in terms of versioning the code, versioning the model. So these best practices also was not, that was lacking in those days. And I think all these factors contributed for the less adoption in terms of machine learning, and it's only a subset of organizations have been using machine learning in order to make predictions. But what happened in the last 5 years to 10, especially in the last decade, I would say, cloud has revolutionized everything. So, with the adoption of cloud, now provisioning the infrastructure or scaling up or scaling down has become quite easier. Storage is cheap, and also like they can now version every part of the data quite easily, and also every part of the model, so that at any point in time they can go back and regenerate the same decisions at any point in time. So these are the cloud was the main reason for the recent adoption of machine learning by a lot of organizations, because now they have the confidence of using machine learning to make informed decisions and predictions. So around 2012, like a deep learning technique, which is another machine learning technique that was introduced, which was going a little bit further in terms of having layers of neural networks that are used to process data and also to make informed decisions. The recent cab of the rank is the generative AI. So this was actually launched in 2021, where now we use generative AI if you want to create new content or new visual or new auditory content for any provided prompts. So these prompts are nothing but like a natural language text that you can provide, for which you can get a response. And that's what we are going to talk about as part of today's session. The Azure Open AI service is part of the generative AI era. So we are going to talk about that in detail. So this is an important slide because here we are showcasing the entire Azure AI portfolio. So starting right at the bottom, we have the Azure AI infrastructure, which I talked about, right? When we want to do machine learning, we need to have grunty infrastructure in place. And that's what Azure basically provides. So whether you want virtual machine which needs to be like a memory optimized or CPU optimized or a GPU based virtual machines, they are readily available on Azure or either on a pay as you go model, where basically pay as you go model is you pay for only what you use, or you can just get them with a commitment. So for instance, if you want to commit a VM for a year, you will be able to go ahead and do that in order to train your machine learning models. The next thing I want to talk about is the Azure AI services. So Microsoft basically they have built some pre-built AI models, and they have exposed these AI models as APIs, which is REST APIs. as well as SDKs, which is software development kits. Software development kits are nothing but it's a wrapper over existing APIs to make it easy for developers to consume. So one particular question that always come in my trainings is around whether if an organization wants to embrace AI, whether they have to start a greenfield application or it can be just incorporated in an existing application. So my answer is always you don't need always a greenfield application. So if you have an existing application, you can integrate that with these pre-built AI models and you can AI enable them. So let us quickly look at what are the key pre-built AI models that Azure AI services offer. So the Azure OpenAI service, this is the part of the generative AI family, which we are going to discuss in detail in today's session, is part of a pre-built AI model. We have got Azure AI Search, which actually provides you the search capabilities, and this will include the cognitive search capability. Basically, when we talk about search, we always talk about text-based search, but now with the cognitive services capability, now you will be able to search images, we can search videos and audio files and so on. The Azure AI speech service, which will allow you to convert speech to text or text to speech, and there is a whole heap of APIs that will cover these scenarios. The Azure AI Vision. So the vision category has got APIs which will allow you to just you can upload an image and then you will be able to get to know a description of the image, what objects are available on the image, are there any celebrities in the image or any landmarks are in the image. So you will be able to get information about that using the Azure AI Vision service. Azure AI content safety. So this particular pre-built AI model, as the name says, a lot of organizations these days, when I talk to them, they are reluctant for using, mainly they are worried about what if the user puts a prompt that has got malicious content, or if a response that we are getting from the open AI models, what if they have malicious content coming back. So the Azure AI content safety is mainly to prevent malicious content either being sent to the large language models or being retrieved from large language models and displayed to the user. So there are some checks and balances which we will be talking about in module 4 in detail around Azure AI content safety, what it really offers for customers. Azure AI Document Intelligence, as the name denotes, this is basically like you can do OCR on PDF documents and you will be able to extract the text out of it in JSON format, which you can integrate with other applications. Of course, you have the Azure AI language where you can do Q&A. You can create a chatbot related to Q&A on the data, or as well as you have the Azure AI translator service where you can convert speech or text into translating into different other languages. Variety of languages that are supported as part of the Azure AI translator. So these are all pre-built AI models, but some organizations may have use cases where they won't be able to use none of the pre-built AI models because their use case may be so particular where they have to create their own machine learning model. And Azure doesn't stop there. It also provides tools in order to create custom machine learning models. And that's what the Azure Machine Learning provides with. So when we talk about Azure Machine Learning, it allows you to create custom machine learning models using notebooks, or you can use the Azure like automated machine learning, and then you have the ML designer. So the ML designer and automated machine learning, they are graphical user interface tools which you can use to create the machine learning models. But there may be some data scientists who are well versed in Python and they would like to create their machine learning models using Python code. And of course, the notebooks option is for them to use. We are going to talk about Azure AI Studio in a later part of session. And what you will be looking at as part of that is like how we can utilize the responsible AI dashboard, the model catalog, the prompt flow that is a tool that is available in there, and also like about ML ops and LLM ops. So the AI Azure AI Studio is a one-stop shop to test, build, and deploy AI solutions. And I'll showcase that at the later part of today's session so that you can have a glimpse of how the Azure AI Studio really looks like. So here is a list of the pre-built AI services that we have been discussing. And in today's session, the focus point is going to be the Azure Open AI service, which is basically a REST API service to Azure Open AI language models. This includes like GPT-4, GPT-4 Turbo with Vision, GPT-3.5 Turbo, embedding model series, and so on. So we'll talk about each of these models and what is the purpose of them in detail at the later part of today's session. So before I jump on to the Azure Open AI service, I wanted to quickly talk about what we call it as the large language models or the LLMs. So we have been talking about LLMs a lot, and it is good to understand what LLMs are. So LLMs are basically models that has been pre-built AI models that has been developed and made it available for our consumption. So basically, it is a type of AI that can process as well as produce natural language text. So how these models are trained is they have been trained using massive amount of data gathered from different sources. Some of those source examples are like your Wikipedia, as well as the GitHub public repositories and so on. Basically, these models, they have the foundational set of models. So for instance, you will be using either a subset of a GPT-3 model or GPT-4 model. And so each one of them is called a foundational model, which is part of the large language model categories. So there is another buzzword that is currently going on in the market is around Microsoft Copilot. So what is Copilot? And people always just want to know about how is it different from the Azure Open AI service. So Copilot is nothing but it's a AI bot that has been created by Microsoft. So Microsoft created this AI bot where you can ask a question to this AI bot and it is going to provide you a response. And basically you can access Copilot by typing just copilot.microsoft.com. So if you navigate to copilot.microsoft.com, so pretty much you have got access to Copilot and you can ask any questions to Copilot and it is going to provide you a response. So basically this is how it will look like. So if you type copilot.microsoft.com, so what you get to see here is, let me zoom this for you. So this is copilot.microsoft.com. And as you can see, there is a question here around ask me about anything. And that is what Copilot basically offers you here. So what you get to see here is like you can ask the question and you will be able to get a response. So you can ask for a job description or you can ask for any type of questions and Copilot is going to provide you a response. And we can just say, a job description for a business intelligence developer. And what this is going to do is it is Copilot is going to have a think about it and it is going to go and provide a job description. So basically like what are the key responsibilities for a business intelligence developer that you have to use in your job description. So you can also ask some sort of detailed question. So for instance, here I have just said, give me a job description for business intelligence developer. I can better tweak this prompt, right? So I would say like, okay, give me job description with the overview, the skills that we are looking for, the experience that we are looking for a business intelligence developer. Then it is going to give a much more detailed version of the job description. But as you can see here, it is pretty straightforward. You ask a question and Copilot is providing you a response. So this is basically what Microsoft have done is they have created Copilot, which is a AI chatbot integrating with the large language models that we have been discussing, like the GPT-4 models, and they created this application. So now you can go to copilot.microsoft.com, ask any questions, and you will be able to get a response from Copilot. So that's the power of Copilot. And of course, like you can build your own copilots that if you require, you can use Microsoft Copilot and you can also continue integrate within that. So what is the purpose of Copilot? So Copilot, as I said, it is an AI chatbot created by Microsoft. The idea from Microsoft is like they want to make sure like the people who are using their flagship products, they to make their life easy on using those products. So a lot of the organizations, they have got different type of Microsoft products that they use. So for instance, like if you take people use Power Platform, they use Windows, they use GitHub, they use Microsoft 365 products like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Teams, and then you have Dynamics 365. All these products are basically used by people within the organization. So pretty much every employee will be using either one or the other application as listed in here. Copilot is embedded in each one of these products that we are talking about. And pretty much Microsoft targeted all the different like stakeholders. So whether you're talking about sales users, customer service people, security operations people, data and IT pros, knowledge workers, or software developers, whoever it is within the organization, whatever product that they use, Copilot is embedded in that. So that is the key advantage. So basically, you can ask natural language text question and Copilot is going to provide you a response, irrespective of whether you are inside Word or PowerPoint or Outlook or Excel, doesn't really matter. And these are some of the Copilot solutions which Microsoft have already introduced currently into the cloud. And of course, like the vision for Microsoft is making sure Copilot is embedded in each one of their flagship product. So we have to wait and watch and see what are the other applications where Microsoft are planning to embed Copilot. And not just these, like they also provide an ability for users to build their own Copilot, either with the help of the Microsoft Copilot Studio or with the help of the Microsoft Azure AI Studio. So each, you can use any of these two studios and you can build your own Copilots for your applications or websites.